I'm immigration lawyer Mark Northam.
And I'm registered migration agent Monica Gruszka.
And this week on The Migration Show, we have the first of a special two-part series all about the RMA report.
So stay tuned.
Welcome to The Migration Show with Mark Northam and Monica Gruszka, the show for Australian migration agents and immigration lawyers, where we talk about the latest Australian immigration law, policy and much more, including your questions. Information discussed on The Migration Show is not intended as legal advice or immigration assistance and is current as of the date of the show's production. However, as migration law frequently changes, you should always refer to updated information. And now, from Sydney, the hosts of The Migration Show, immigration lawyer Mark Northam and registered migration agent Monica Gruszka.
I'm immigration lawyer Mark Northam, and with me is registered migration agent Monica Gruszka, and welcome back to the show.
Yes, we're here again.
That's it. We're back in video. Hope you have enjoyed the shows we've been doing on topics. And, you know, since the audience of this show is immigration agents and immigration lawyers,
absolutely,
we wanted to talk about a very special report that came out.
Well, yeah, that's it. It's been a bit of we've had a bit of ups and downs, but it's coming to, I think we're coming close to a conclusion of what the Joint Standing Committee have recommended.
That's it. Now, you know, our viewers might be wondering, gee, who's that behind us? You usually see a lovely shot of Sydney.
Ah, yes.
But this time we have to ask the question, is the business going to the dogs?
Well, it is. So we've got Pedro the Pug, and we're referring the inquiry to Pedro the Pug and seeing what his feedback is. And he's a little bit down.
Yeah, he's kind of down, and you kind of
see him.
But you've got a dog that's similar to this, don't you?
I do. I have a cross pug and a Pekingese.
Oh, nice.
Which is very cute.
There we go. Well, we may be referring to Pedro there behind us from time to time. Yep. So there we go.
Yes.
Well,
here we go.
Not long ago, last week, the Joint Standing Committee on Migration, as set up by the Parliament, put in their final report about the inquiry into the efficacy of efficacy. Like that?
I love that word.
Isn't those the little pills you put in the glass and they fizz when you got indigestion or something?
That's effervescence.
Oh.
That's okay.
Efficacy,
effervescence.
Anyway. Pedro doesn't know the difference. Yeah. The efficacy, the effervescence of current regulation of Australian migration and education agents.
Well, okay, so we've got the RMAs and we've got the EAs.
That's right. And notice Australian migration and education agents.
Pick up on that while we talk through this report, because we'll explain why. Initially, well, let's just jump to it, because we will.
Please.
Initially, it was meant to be about education agents who were offshore.
And migration agents offshore.
Well, that's right.
And a particular organization who last February took quite a bit of credit for being behind the launch of this thing, or certainly being part of it and all that, was crowing about the fact that this is all about offshore unregistered agents.
But guess what really happened?
Oops. Well,
we're going to go through it with you.
That's right.
Yeah, it kind of looked like it was
it sort of took a turn.
Of course, and that's why Pedro the Pug is really sad.
Yeah, because Pedro's onshore.
He's onshore. He's an onshore migration agent, and he's not happy.
No, he's not.
No, because he's been doing the right thing.
That's it. And you know, if you're going to start something, you stick with it.
Oh, absolutely.
And this thing just went off the tracks before it gets started, unfortunately. And I don't know why, but I wish that somebody would have perhaps stuck with it a little more. But
well, you did.
Well,
yeah. Well, if you're a first-time listener to or a watcher of this show, Mark Northam brought it to the attention when we just started on the podcast. It was just an audio. And
that was last year.
That was last year.
March, April.
We're coming up to a 1-year anniversary of
doing this. Party time.
Party time. That's exactly right. So, if you wanted to go back through, it was probably the second or third episode that we did on the podcast when the initial inquiry came out.
That's it.
And no one knew about it. And since that podcast, we have had a lot of questions. A lot of people who are advocating to stick with staying together. And you know, so we're going to go through what the recommendations are, what's happened since a year ago, and check out the website on themigrationshow.com for the earlier podcasts if you want a detailed report into the early submission.
There you go.
There you go.
So despite the crowing about how this was going to be aimed at offshore unregistered agents,
yes,
we're going to read you the 5 terms of reference that were essentially the marching orders that came out in March. And what a difference from February to March.
It has been.
So here's the first one, examining the registration and regulation of migration agents in Australia.
What happened to not being in Australia?
Well,
just keep that in your head.
That didn't get there.
It. All right.
Including education, English proficiency, payment, fee scheduling, as well as the suitability and stringency of the accreditation process and evidence of deficiencies.
What are we talking about when they say evidence of deficiency?
Well, that's a good question. They're looking for it. So that's all about onshore RMAs, folks.
Wow, nothing to do with offshore RMAs, though.
No. Okay. Funny how that works. How about number 2?
Number 2. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the nature and prevalence of fraud, professional misconduct, and other breaches by registered migration agents.
Onshore.
The current review mechanisms for migration agents, and the adequacy of penalties.
So as you can see, this put the RMA industry under the microscope.
It sure did.
I don't think that was the plan.
No, I don't see offshore migration agents mentioned in the top 2.
It's coming up. It's coming up.
I wonder what position that's in.
That'll be almost at the end.
Number
3.
Number 3, go for it.
Deficiencies and barriers to relevant authorities' investigation of fraudulent behavior by registered migration agents in visa applications, including adequacy of information and evidence sharing between such authorities. Well, once again, registered migration agents in the target.
Pedro the pug.
Not happy.
How are you feeling?
Pedro?
Very sad.
He's not happy.
No cookie for you.
You know, the industry is definitely going to the dogs at this point.
Well, it is. There is a cookie. I'm just going to move.
Oh, that's the thing. There's the cookie.
No cookie for you.
No. Hey, look at number 4.
Number 4.
I think we finally might have a little hint about that something.
You know the
Check
interesting part? Yeah, when things toward the bottom are not necessarily the most important. I think one of the things I learned in my life is when you want something, whatever it is, you put the most important part at the top. Well, this isn't. So, point number 4, evidence of the volumes and patterns of unregistered migration agents and education agents providing unlawful immigration services in Australia.
In Australia,
Why is that not at the top of the review?
Well, and it's not even offshore. It's still in Australia.
I know. So why? We've got some opinions about this. We'll go through it a little bit later.
Finally, reviewing the appropriateness of migration agents providing other services to clients.
Okay.
Like selling insurance or something? I don't know what's going on with that. Anyway.
Well.
So those were the marching orders for the committee.
It's good marching orders. Marching orders. I like it.
Now, I think that what we'll do, we're doing a 2-part show on this. So I think we're going to jump right to the recommendations. There were 10 of them. 2 of them have to do with something completely off topic about ETA visas and people who come here on an ETA and lodge protection visa. So we're going to skip the last 2.
With work rights.
That's right. We're going to, I think we're going to jump right and do a few of the recommendations. So why don't we just turn in our hymnals here to the recommendations.
The hymnals.
Now these are recommendations that the committee made.
Yes.
And these recommendations may or may not be taken up by the government, but I have a feeling they will be.
Of course it is. That's why it's here.
There we go.
It's here.
That's
it's
their
written
job.
in paper.
There we go.
So it's going to be out there.
So.
All right, number 1.
Please.
Shall I go first?
Please.
Okay, recommendation number 1. 3.70. The committee recommends that the Australian government, in consultation with relevant migration agent peak bodies, undertake a review of the current registration requirements of migration agents having regard to the effectiveness of the current registration requirements. I don't know about you, but every time I need to renew, it's hard.
Well, they're very thorough.
Audits,
they're very thorough.
Audits, accounts, payment, subscriptions,
client accounts, all of that stuff. So I guess they need to be more effective. What's next?
I know, exactly. The next one is technical proficiency through education.
Well,
how do you measure? I'm just give us an idea.
Well,
I want to know what the idea is.
As if I guess they may take a look at the CPD process.
Okay.
And maybe they're going to take a closer look at that. I don't know.
Instead of 10 points 20.
Hey, why not? That's right. More
Double it.
technical proficiency. Why not?
Let's just throw more money into CPD.
What else?
Okay.
And the next one's a big one.
Oh, English proficiency.
Uh-oh. We're talking 7.5?
Talking about 1,000.
I don't know. So.
IELTS of 1,000.
Yep.
Okay.
Next one?
I love this one. This is a good one. Peer assessment.
Now, how is that going to be practical?
Come on. Who I'm going to choose.
Peer assessment?
You know who I'm going to choose.
Yeah, well, yeah.
This is just like back
you
in
review
university.
me, I review you. Yep. I'll mark your paper, you mark
Mark has funny jokes. Tick, yes.
Right.
Recommend him as a migration agent. Yes.
Hey, what do you know? Peer assess.
Scratch my back and I'll scratch yours.
That's it.
This peer assessment, I love that one. We'll keep that one in. I think it's really good.
Yep.
All right, what the other one is? The other one is the issuing of a practicing certificate.
Now we're going to...
You elaborate on that one.
Well, one of these other recommendations gets to that one. In fact, the number 2 does. So I'm going to defer to that. But essentially, instead of a MARA registration certificate, but wait a minute, they don't give the certificates anymore, do they?
No, they don't.
And they don't give you the ID cards anymore, do they?
No.
They give you nothing.
No,
you can look yourself up on the website.
I know, or make your own special
if the system's
card.
up. Or you can buy a card from one of our friends.
Yes, Migration Alliance. They do it.
That's right. They do certificates and cards.
You put in your. It's a good idea. I've got to get a new one.
That's right. Put it on your wall. There you go. Regulation by legal bodies.
Which ones?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah.
Regulation.
What does it mean?
Regulation by legal bodies. Regulation by legal. Who else would do it? Okay, and changing migration agent nomenclature.
Nomenclature.
Is that because we can't say we're migration specialists?
Are we going to have a new name for the profession?
What are we going to be?
Well, how much money are they going to spend coming up with a new name for migration agent?
Pedro the Pug, what do you think? What does Pedro the Pug think?
Well, are you a migration agent?
All he cares about is the
cookie.
Give me the cookie.
What's the cookie?
That's all right, no worries. We'll get back to you on that one when Pedro decides.
Yes.
The nomenclature of our new name.
That's it. Well, I'll go to recommendation number 2.
Okay.
This was originally recommended in the Kendall report of years past. And it was the only part of the Kendall report that the government said, no, we're not going to really move forward with this. But here it comes again.
Okay.
The committee recommends that all new migration agents, but they don't say what new means.
Yeah, well, when the date is, because they haven't figured that out
well,
yet.
And how many years of experience do you have to still be new or not? Be required.
I love law, interpretation of the English language. Love it.
Be required to complete a period. They don't say how long, of supervised practice prior to being granted an unrestricted practice certificate.
Like becoming a lawyer.
So now we're going to, that's right. Now we're going to have 2 kinds of OMARA certificates. Restricted, unrestricted.
So let's see. What happens when you become a migration agent and you're in this
restricted or unrestricted?
Well, we're unrestricted. No, we're restricted.
Well, now you got to start as restricted. And then you get your restrictions removed.
Well, that's the answer to that one.
Okay. So what other things are restricted migration agents not going to be able to do? We are splitting the migration agent body into 2.
Yes. And it's exactly like the law becoming a lawyer.
Yep. Isn't it interesting how some of the LCA submissions are sort of reminiscent of this? I'm sure they're not talking to anybody.
Copy, copy, paste, copy, paste. All right, anyway. Moving forward.
Well, also on the supervision issue.
Sure.
Most migration agents are single-person operations, many working out of their home.
Well, you know what? Mary and Dickie, who we did, it's another wonderful interview we had
back on the
original podcast.
She talked about this.
She did, and she's doing a thesis or a PhD.
Yep.
I can't wait. She's going to talk about this.
We need to get her back on.
Mary and Dickie, we got to get you back here live because we've got this new beaut technology here in the studio.
That's it.
To go through why and how difficult it is to get supervised
It's just not practical. Is a single migration agent going to invite a stranger into their house to work full time so they can teach them everything they know and be their competitor the next day?
Ah, yes.
It's, and what motivation is there for migration agents to do that, especially if you're home, you've got kids, and are we talking about Fair Work Australia and minimum salaries? Because
and you got
most supervision when lawyers are going through this period is unpaid or barely paid. So, and that's just kind of one of the things you do.
That's true. Look, I'll admit, I think supervised practice is great if you can get it.
It's a nice concept.
It is, and I was looking for mentors all the time. Hence, I met you. Hence, I met Christopher. and all the other places I've been to.
Yep, same here.
And I needed it because it's such a lonely occupation. And most people that do it, when you study postgraduate migration law, most people are adults and are family members. So I had 2 kids. I couldn't imagine myself when I had my youngest one breastfeeding and having somebody coming in while I'm trying to lodge a visa application. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would be exciting, but I just don't think it's practical. But it is. I do favour it. I think it's a good concept.
I mean, mentoring or something like this.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, supervision. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just unrealistic. Unless there's some way to make it easy, it's not easy. Okay.
All right, number 3.
Número 3. The committee recommends that the Australian government amend the Migration Act 1958 to establish a statutory authority, the Immigration Assistance Complaints Commissioner, with the following powers.
The Immigration Assistance Commission, IACC, YAC. The YAC.
The YAC. YAC.
So this is a new authority. It's a new government department.
Okay, another one.
And by the way, the Omara is not going anywhere. So we now have,
we'll have the
2.
IAC.
Count them. The IAC and the Omara.
The IAC and the Omara.
And what's the IAC going to do?
Well, the IAC is going to resolve complaints about immigration services. Mm-hmm. Oh, is the Omara
going to stay? Omara is going to stay. I think.
Okay.
This is going to be another authority that essentially keeps a very close eye on the RMA profession.
Right. Detecting, deterring, disrupting.
That's the 3 Ds. Ooh.
Investigating and prosecuting unregistered practice. Good.
All right.
Okay. Imposing sanctions or fines and or ordering the payment of costs, payment of refund or compensation. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, all right.
That's good.
There are some good points, but now we're going to have 2 government bodies regulating and overseeing and imposing their regulations and will on migration agents.
Who's bigger and who's who?
Well,
who's got the power?
Got the power.
That's a song.
How about the next one? This is a big one.
Educating. Oh, is that the wrong one?
No, sorry. Publishing.
It is late. We started late. Yep. Okay, so publishing registered migration agent performance data.
What does that mean?
How many approve? I thought we're not allowed to say we get so many approvers or guaranteeing your approvers.
Well, we can't say guarantee, but I mean, what kind of performance data are they talking about? I mean,
failure, refusal, cancellation.
Well, is that going to discourage migration agents from taking anything but the safest cases?
Well, that's right. And where would you publish registered migration agent performance data?
Yeah.
Is there some confidentiality issue here?
Well, and yeah, is that going to be like one of those schools report where you pick your schools with all those statistics?
Yeah, that's
And
actually a little bit frightening. I'm a bit frightened.
And what happens if you take something to the tribunal and you're not successful at the tribunal? Is that a strike or something?
Oh, yeah. What about if you take a case on from someone else that was refused or cancelled and and they want you to take it and, what do? How do you say no to clients?
Yep.
Okay, that's interesting. Educating people in immigration, business and agents about the best ways to handle complaints and the issues they raise.
Well,
That's it. That's good. And last one, providing information to the minister in relation to any of the complaints commissioner's functions if requested.
Wow, a new authority.
Another authority.
In addition to the Omara. That's fantastic. What a great result, guys.
Well, yes.
Well done.
So,
fantastic.
Very important.
Well, that's it for this show. We will be continuing next week with more of the recommendations and much more from the report. I'm Mark Northam.
I'm Monica Gruszka.
Thanks so much for watching and stay tuned. We'll see you next week.
See you then.
This episode of The Migration Show is sponsored by Christopher Levingston and Associates.
Yes, Christopher is a accredited immigration lawyer and has been for many years, and he has a wonderful offer for all you registered migration agents or anyone else in the field who needs a review on a failed AAT case.
That's it. If you have had an AAT case that did not get a positive result, Christopher has a standing offer for all RMAs to give you a free review of that case and give you advice as to whether there may be possibilities of taking it to the federal court or elsewhere. So if you have a unsuccessful AAT case or any other question, please send it to Christopher by email.
Yes, email is christopher@levingston.com.au, christopher@levingston.com.au.